Big day coming up here on Locked On Blue Devils. A lot to discuss with this men's basketball program, and our good pal Josh Cox back with us once again for another exciting episode. Let's get after it.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with JaeSean Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JaeSean Jackson. I hope that you're doing well here today on this Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop for everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. We're talking a whole lot about the men's basketball program now that we've got a really nice picture and idea of what the roster looks like specifically. Our pal Josh Cox will be with us here today to discuss all of those things. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, make sure that you watch the show each and every day on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the videos, share them with your friends. We're continuing to grow this program, and I really do appreciate all the support that we're getting from you guys, the everydayers out there who continue to make this program go. If you ever have any questions that you want answered on the program, we're always collecting mailbag questions. So go ahead and send those in the comments below. Send us an email, lockedonbluedevils@gmail.com, or a message on X at @LO_Blue Devils. I'm on X as well at _JJ_Jackson_. So without further ado, let's welcome him into the program here today. Our good pal, Josh Cox, back with us once again. It's good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, good to be back, JJ. A lot has taken place since the last time we talked about a week ago.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Let's start with just kind of this roster now in place. We've got a good idea for what Duke basketball will look like going into next season. And notably, over these past few days, we've had the NBA Draft Combine going on there in Chicago. And I mentioned that, Josh, because we find ourselves in a position where Duke no longer is really kind of having to wait to see how those things go and feedback for certain players and that sort of thing, right? We know that Filipowski and McCain are there to stay in the NBA draft, and now Duke has 11 scholarship players ready to move forward here into the season.
Yeah, for sure. And shout out to Jared McCain, by the way, for that shooting performance that he had. What was it, 19 for 25, I believe?
Not too shabby. Yeah,
not too shabby at all. And so, yeah, I mean, 11 scholarship players, we really, look at any coach, even a coach that goes deep, plays a deep roster, a deep bench, like Coach Scheyer did early in the year last year. The most he played was 10,
right.
On a full rotation. And so really what you're looking at now is if Duke completes 2 more scholarships on this roster is going to be guys that are, they're practice players. I wouldn't necessarily look for anybody that's gonna be a star in any way. Maybe a big that can be good in practice and give you some spot minutes if necessary, things like that. But yeah, as you said, 11 guys strong now, and I feel like 11 guys that are going to all vie for a spot in the rotation.
I can't wait to see this team kind of get together in just a few weeks. In the middle of June, we'll get everybody back on campus with the exception of Kama Malawak, who's going to be getting ready to compete in the Summer Olympics. And it's always this time of year that you really start to kind of mesh and get to know one another, and you can kind of establish some habits on the floor. A lot of pickup is played over the course of the summer, which is a really good thing because Duke doesn't have as many guys coming back. It's a whole lot of new pieces coming together and trying to make everything fit.
Yeah, I mean, and for sure, it's you hate it. I think we spoke about this last week or 2 weeks ago that you hated that Malawak is not going to be there during the offseason. But on the other hand, it's like he's playing against grown men. You know what I mean? He will be improving his individual game probably at a faster rate than you would be if he was in Durham. But can you imagine you've been playing pickup, you got like your 5, and then you're like, oh, by the way, when the season starts, there's a 7'2" guy who's probably going to block 4 shots, average 4 blocks a game, and 12 rebounds a game, who is going to be here. And so that's, obviously some adjustments will have to be made. But yeah, for the guys who are coming in, they're going to be able to play together. They're going to be able to get to know each other. They're going to form those bonds that now in today's college sports, and especially basketball, it's basically a whole new team every year. And so these early times together play an important role, I believe, in the gel and the mixing of these teams. If you think back just a few years ago, it was not uncommon for many of these guys to play together for 2, 3, 4 years. And so that's just not the case anymore.
All right, so we've got JaeSean James now coming to play basketball at Duke after 4 seasons at Tulane. He and Mason Gillis both are going to exercise that 5th year of COVID eligibility, and they're going to do that playing for the Duke basketball team. Where do you sit on JaeSean James, Josh, now that he's the newest member of the team?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to act like I had followed him last season, or anything like that. But obviously, as you see Duke becoming interested in him, I started, watching some stuff and Googling some YouTube, some stuff. And by the way, Jordan Mann did a great job in his breakdown of JaeSean's game. But what I noticed, just looking at his stats and trying to get a vibe of what kind of player he is the improvement in shooting from the previous season 2022 into last season 2023. I think he's at 38% shooting a three this past season, but that was up from 31%, 32% the previous season. He went up from 48% from the field to 51% from the field. So his shooting numbers, improved, and also so did his volume and so did his total points per game. So it seemed like the more he got involved on offense, the better he shot, the more he scored. And so I love that. I think that trajectory, if he can continue the trajectory forward, maybe turn that 38% into 40%, maybe turn that 51% into 53% at Duke. I'd tell you what, there'd be some happy people in Durham. The other thing I noticed about him, JJ, if you just look at him, he's a grown man, bro. He is a grown man.
Undoubtedly.
He is strong. There are some defensive clips of him just ripping the ball out of people and then going out and dunking on them, right? There's that. And so I think he's an electric player, man. And I think very quickly the Cameron crazies and the rest of the fan base in Durham is going to get to know him quickly, and he's going to be a quick fan favorite.
Here's still the one thing we need to know about JaeSean James, and I'm challenging folks to do some reporting, and if I'm ever given the opportunity, I'm for sure going to get to the bottom of this. I shared this on Twitter last week. We talked about it on the show with Connor O'Neill last week as well. But on his personal player profile on the Tulane Athletic website, in his bio, it talks about JaeSean James skipping 3rd grade. And I got to get to the bottom of this, Josh. I got to know what the scenario is that this guy is so good.
Maybe he learned his multiplication tables just quicker than most kids, and they're like, you know what, you already know what 8 times 4 is, man. We're gonna push you up. It's funny because all kidding aside, a lot of people whose kids, they feel like their kids have a future in athletics. Many parents, not usually as low as 3rd grade, it usually happens in middle school, but many parents hold them back a year, before they hit high school, so that they have an advantage over their, they have a 1-year advantage.
Good point.
Not so for JaeSean. My man skips the 3rd grade. I love it, man. I love it. He was also all academic last year as well. So once again, man, Duke is a unique school.
Duke,
yeah, it's a unique school, and to find a player that is built like him, that plays like him, that skipped the 3rd grade and has an academic lean. I mean, those are the kind of guys, when they're available, if you're Jon Scheyer, you've got to land them. Yeah. You've got to.
Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's figure out what
I know we got to find. So I will say this with my media credentials. As soon as I'm able to speak to the guy, that'll be my first question.
Please.
Take me back to 3rd grade.
Like you said,
were you just an incredible reader? What was it? Did you learn the planets in order quicker than everyone else? I'm not sure what you did in 3rd grade, man, but
I didn't
whatever it was awesome.
Yeah, I didn't think of the spin zone that so many times in the when you've got great athletes. You want to hold them back possibly a year. That sort. I was more so I think of skipping grades. I think of like kindergarten and first grade, right?
Right.
But Theon's been doing it a few years, and then we get to third grade, and it's like, nah, let's move on to
the only thing that I can compare it to is when I was in elementary school, the school that I went to switched curriculums in around my 4th, 5th grade year. And they did allow in certain like math, you were able to test in or out.
Sure.
So I, not to brag here, but I did skip 4th grade math. I tested out of 4th grade math. I was in 5th grade math in the 4th grade. I don't know if something like that happened at his school. I have no idea. But not to brag, but I was a year ahead in math for a while. So, and then I got to high school and I'm like, I can skip a year of math and still be on track. And that's what I did.
We're a few years into this friendship, man, and I'm still learning more about you each and every day. I love it. I love it. All right, let's take our first time out here on today's show, and then we'll be back with more on Locked On Blue Devils here today on this Wednesday. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. You know how much we love our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the winning formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts that you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Back on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, I'm JJ Jackson, joined today by my good friend Josh Cox from the Section 17 podcast and from Duke Report. We're talking about this Duke basketball roster now that we've got a good idea for it, and we've got the latest edition of the scholarship chart for this Duke basketball team. Pretty soon, we're going to be able to take away this past season's kind of look at how Duke assigned those full 13 scholarships. But for now, there are 2 left. Before we get to those kind of 2 open spots, Josh, what do you think of the summation of these parts when you see these 11 names listed?
I will say this. Guys much smarter than I am. I'm seeing on Twitter national guys that cover this that are just, that are brilliant in the industry of basketball saying Jon Scheyer is putting together the perfect roster around Cooper Flagg. And I couldn't agree more. You got to have shooting around him. I think they addressed that early, both with Gillis and Malik Brown. I know Malik Brown's a defender, but he can shoot the ball as well. Gillis can shoot the ball. Look, we just mentioned Sion, 38%, so not a bad shooter. And then you got the freshmen, right? You got Isaiah Evans, who's baby BI, but can shoot the 3. Darren Harris can obviously shoot the 3. So anyway, I think I love the way it is constructed. It would not surprise me on one of those 2 open spots that it winds up being somebody that would have been a walk-on that maybe Coach Scheyer gives a roster spot, gives a scholarship to, similar to what he did with Spencer Hubbard. But I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, listen, if you said we don't add anybody else and we go in with these 11 guys, I'm still comfortable with that roster heading into next season.
I definitely agree. I know people want to talk a little bit about the ball handling situation, being that JaeSean James is 6'6" and doesn't have, played a little bit of off ball at that guard spot and whatnot. And I definitely hear some of the arguments that are out there, but I think it gets a little too extreme when I'm listening to some folks talk about that current situation as if they think this guy's going to dribble the ball off his foot or whatever the case may be. Like, Duke's going to be fine, because the actual reality is Foster, Proctor, Flagg, Isaiah Evans, some of these other guys are going to have the ball trying to distribute and get Duke into sets more than anybody else. There's not this crazy large need for a real true ball handler.
And not to downplay the position of point guard, because I think it's important. I mean, we've seen just down the road in Chapel Hill the importance of an RJ Davis over the last 2 years, right? Like, we've seen that.
Absolutely.
But the game of basketball, especially in the NBA level, and it's trickling down, as you do have a lot more of that point forward. You do have a lot more of that point Zion, right? You have a lot more of that. I'm not comparing anybody in college to him because he's an incredible unicorn, but you have Jokic that's like he is the focal point of that offense. And so you can get by without the traditional true point guard in a lot of ways, not to diminish that role, but you can work around it. That being said, as you mentioned, Tyrese Proctor has played the one off and on combo throughout his career. Caleb Foster really played the one last season while he was when he was in the game, he had the ball. And so, like, I'm not stressing about it. I'm really not stressing about it at all. And like you said, if we need Isaiah Evans, if we need Cooper Flagg, and we need to adjust and flip the offense that way, I'm sure we'll be fine. I'm sure we'll figure it out.
All right, so with the chart that people see on the screen here, if you're watching on YouTube, again, 2 open scholarships for the Duke basketball team, also color-coded by year that they have in school. You'll see the 2 guys at the top, and Mason Gillis and JaeSean James are using that super senior, their COVID year of eligibility to play one more season of college basketball. And that was needed in the transfer portal situation for the Duke basketball team, because before these newest 3 additions, Duke was looking at 1 sophomore, 1 junior, and then 6 freshmen. So this line of experience really important for the Blue Devils.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it was no secret that, at least on my perspective, I did not see that big of a mass exodus occurring, in Durham. I really didn't expect that.
Likewise.
I expected a couple, but I didn't expect everybody that went. And so, yeah, I mean, speculation as to how that all came about, why that all came about. Was it one of those mutual agreements of like, hey, I think you could get more minutes somewhere else, and basically Scheyer's like, we need to open up every scholarship we can because we need to build this roster around this current team. I don't know. I'd be okay with that if so, especially if it lands Duke in the Final Four this coming season. But I do think there's some pressure this year when you have that big of a roster flip and you have the number 1 player in the country coming in who is being hyped as much as any player has in the last 20, 25 years. There's obviously some pressure. And so this roster does need to get constructed properly. And like I said, it could be done and be properly constructed as is, or they could add a piece. And I'm not exactly sure. That's one thing I will say. Everybody keeps it decently quiet, man. Everything stays a little quiet, and then randomly you'll hear about a certain guy that Duke is looking at, and then 2 days later he's committed. So, I wish I had a better insider info there, but I don't think anybody does.
Sounds like they're running a pretty tight ship, as they always have there in Durham. All the old stories of Coach K throwing people out of the arena at practice who weren't supposed to be there. Some folks just custodians in the building, and you can't trust anybody, Josh. We got to get them out of there, man.
You
never know where the news is going to go.
High level federal government information in those practices, evidently.
Yeah, absolutely. So with this roster now, a couple of new players that bring experience for the Duke basketball team and a whole lot of size. I mean, no player under 6'5" on this roster for the Duke Blue Devils. Guards in particular, I mean, my goodness, what a matchup kind of advantage this can be in so many ways. For Duke, the Blue Devils earlier in the week let the world know that according to KenPom last season, 79.3 inches for Florida State, their average height, 6'7", is the biggest roster in America. And right now, Duke's average height with scholarship players is 79.4. So going into this season, unless someone else gets a little larger than Duke, they're going to be the biggest team in the country.
Yeah, and we're seeing that. That is obviously it's a big. Having a big roster has always been important, but in this new style of basketball, when you have these guys that are big and they're flexible and they can spread the floor and they can hit the three and they can do all these things, I mean, it just makes you on defense. I mean, you're just even that much better, right? Like you cover more ground and you're not getting clogged up on the offensive end. And so like that's the challenge, I guess, Coach Scheyer has, is using the size in the right way and not clogging up the offense and making this a free-flowing, easy offense for Cooper Flagg, to score in. I go back to the Zion Williamson year, in which I felt like was the probably the least man, I'm trying to be kind about this. It's probably the worst coaching job that I've seen in a long time of handling a superstar. And I really believe Jon Scheyer saw that and said, listen, if they would have just given the ball to Zion Williamson at the elbow extended and gotten out of his way, there was nobody in the college basketball that was stopping that. Well, with Cooper Flagg, whatever that is, wherever he needs to get the ball in order to score, that needs to be the focal point.
Yeah.
If it's elbow extended, if it's low post, if it's spread on the wing, wherever it is, and we run the offense around that. To me, that's a simplistic view. We roll from there. If that's not working, we pivot. But that is our number one offense, and we let it ride.
Duke going into this next season going to have a little bit of an NBA roster with so many eyeballs on their stars going into the college basketball year. Speaking of the NBA, the Blue Devils also kind of dominating the stage at this time of year. Let's give you an update on that and more after we take one more timeout here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. Gametime is America's #1 ticketing place, and now it's an authorized ticket marketplace for the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. That's unheard of with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. They've got the toggling feature that shows you that total upfront, so you've got no surprise fees at checkout with their all-in pricing feature. You can get that panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and it's the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. Final few moments here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson hanging out with my good buddy Josh Cox from Duke Football Talks Section 17 podcast. He's got the Duke Report. He's got Durham Devils Club. So much going on, man. Tell me a little bit about what you're working on these days.
Yeah, man. So for sure, Durham Devils Club is the NIL arm for it. It was started out being football and now expanding and adding sports. Basically, in a nutshell, when it's all said and done, Durham Devils Club will be responsible for every sport other than men's and women's basketball for Duke with NIL. And so really trying to help student athletes, honestly, maximize their potential at Duke. Which is not always just a dollar amount. It's the experience and connections that you have with the alumni. There's a lot of different things that goes into that. So I work with them, and then Duke Report for basketball. Shout out to Freddie Hodges for bringing me in on that. Helps me be media credential for basketball and get a little bit behind the scenes look. And then the same thing, Section 17 podcast, Duke Football Talk for football. And so kind of in a little bit of an off season for both. As we're talking about, we're following the off-season moves both in football, and in basketball. Football just landed offensive lineman from UCLA, started for them 13 games last season. So there's some movement in the off-season now that didn't used to happen with the portal the way it is. So keeps us on our toes for sure. But check out our work, like, subscribe, message us, just like I would ask you to do for JJ here at Locked On Blue Devils.
Yeah, and follow Josh on X at Joshua Cox. You'll see pretty awesome content from time to time. Josh spent some time in my world over the weekend, but they're in Durham as on the eve of the selection show for the NCAA softball tournament. Duke wins the ACC tournament. They win a top 16 national regional seed to host their own regional this upcoming weekend. And you were there to watch it all unfold, man. The Blue Devils won an ACC title.
Man, that was a really cool environment. They broke an attendance record. I don't know if it was a Duke attendance record or an ACC. I have no idea what it was. There was a ton of people there. That's all I got to say. And I'm still trying to figure out how Duke softball is number 4 in the nation and somehow got like a 10 seed. I'm still trying to figure that out.
I'm very puzzled myself. Yeah.
Very puzzled. But I will say this. They have Jayla Brown and Cassidy Curd. They're 2 pitchers. Incredible. And that was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun to watch. And then the baseball team is in I think number 11 in the country. Got UNC coming to town this weekend, and then the ACC tournament the following weekend. So
yeah,
we keep up with all of it, man. Trying to do our best.
Yeah, we're posting updates out there. Claire Davidson, the ACC Player of the Year, fun player to watch there for the Blue Devils in their order. And again, just to be so young, people not understanding that Duke softball has not been around for a very long time. 2018, 2019, Duke's putting together this team, and all of a sudden they're on the verge of going to the Women's College World Series if they can string together a couple of impressive weekends coming up. All right, we've teased Duke in the NBA playoffs. So we want to let people know a little bit about what's going on. Here we are on Wednesday. Saw a couple of fun games last night with the Knicks taking a 3-2 lead over the Pacers. We saw the Nuggets take a 3-2 series lead over the Timberwolves. But we're still seeing some other Duke basketball players leading their way so far this postseason when you're talking about guys like Jayson Tatum and Kyrie Irving. Where do you want to start here, Josh, when you're looking at the playoff stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I would start with no one is saying this, but the Phoenix Suns' luck completely shifted when Grayson Allen went out. And he was having an incredible season, leading the league in shooting threes. And he goes down, and the Suns never could, just couldn't figure it out. So that's as far, I won't say much about the other guys that were in and are no longer playing. I think you obviously have to start with Jayson Tatum and Kyrie Irving. I mean, Tatum, honestly, in a short amount of years, I mean, Jayson Tatum is a young man, but he was so successful so early, personally and with their team, that he feels like he's been in the league forever, right? So but he is, and he has said this numerous times in post-game interviews, like all of the individual awards were already voted on. All NBA, anything you wanted to get was already done. So from here on out, your numbers and stats do not matter. The only thing that matters is, did your team advance to the next round? And so you're seeing Jayson Tatum oftentimes take fewer shots than he has in his career. He knows, listen, if and when, fingers crossed, Porzingis comes back for them, that starting lineup that they put out there is incredible. Any one of those guys can drop 30 points in a game, any of them. And so, I think Jayson Tatum is trying to be the leader of that team. He's doing a great job. There's obviously, it's not a perfect team, but you got to start there. Then you got to go to Kyrie. Man, look, Kyrie's a different dude. Don't get me wrong. I am not here to advocate for any of his off the wall stuff, right? His personal stuff. But I'm the kind of guy, I don't care as much about that stuff. Like, we're all weird, bro. Like, we're all weird in our own little ways. So, like, I want to see what's going on in that court. And my man has found a home in Dallas. He has made the statement that he wishes he had found Dallas earlier in his career. Like, he loves it there. They love him. And when that dude gets in his bag and he's playing ball the way he knows, I mean, he is absolutely incredible. He makes some shots that I've never seen before. And then he's playing alongside rookie Blue Devil Derek Lively, who I've seen some incredible praise for him from some NBA guys. One guy said did the defensive numbers around the rim, in like second spectrum or whatever. Defensive numbers around the rim when Lively is in the game are so much better than any other time for the Mavs. And he's like, I have never seen a rookie like impact the defensive side of the ball
like this,
like he has. And so, that's really awesome to see. Obviously, in his personal life, with his mother passing away, just a few weeks ago, This has just been, I think, a highly emotional time for him. It's so good to see him play well. I love it, man. When that dude dunks the ball and he's running down the court and his hair's flopping, I love it, man. And then, I mean, not playing at all, but having a really good seat to watch Anthony Edwards play as Wendell Moore Jr. with the Wolves there. And you never know, man. You never know. But it looks like Denver is about to complete the 4-game win streak here in the next couple of days. But you never know. Am I missing anybody else that's still in?
A few number of teams left. So yeah, but that's pretty much everybody that is still remaining for the playoffs. Duke had a lot of first round exits.
Yeah.
Because with Orlando, you would have had Paulo and Wendell Carter and those guys and whatnot. So again, Wednesday tonight, we'll have the Boston Celtics and Cavs, game 5 with Boston winning 3-1. Jayson Tatum turned 26 back in March, just a few months ago. So still very young. And then the Mavericks and Thunder.
There's 26-year-old college football players, playing in college this year. So yeah, I mean, just put that in perspective.
Yep. And then we've got the Mavs and Thunder game 5 coming up. Series tied 2-2. Kyrie Irving now 32 years old. For those wondering how long has time flown by since he was playing for Duke? He's 32.
It's crazy though, man. Because of his build, right? I mean, obviously he's not putting as rough of miles on his body, right, as a bigger person. I mean, listen, Kyrie has not slowed down, in my opinion, at all. Like, I think my man's got like an easy 5 more years of like getting by his opponents, finishing at the rim. And it's been really cool, man. Like, Luka has not been himself. I feel like, he's been hurt a little bit and he's just been struggling. And Kyrie has really taken that step up, and he and Luka trust each other. And like what is happening right now, you add PJ Washington in the mix, but what's happening is what people thought could happen. Best case scenario, these guys learn how to play together and they're happy. Well, guess what? They've learned how to play together and they're happy. And so, like, listen, I think they beat OKC. I think Dallas is in the Western Conference Finals against Denver. And at that point, it's who knows? Yeah. I mean, Denver's definitely the better team, top to bottom. But listen, you're a 45-point, 50-point, Luka game. You know what I mean? And you're not beating Dallas if he does that. So who knows, man? It's a lot of fun. I feel like the Celtics are kind of shoed in right now. I feel like they're just a much better team. It's a matter of just when, not if, in the Eastern Conference, and then we'll see if they can get the monkey off their back if they do play Denver in the finals, and see if they can get that win.
Should be fun. Should be fun for sure. So a couple of playoff games to be on the lookout for in the next few days. Again, we're still in the semifinals for each conference. Then we'll have the conference finals before the ultimate NBA finals. And then the NBA draft, and we're off and moving and that sort of thing. The other thing to highlight, very last thing as we're running out of time here, Josh, but worth noting for the loyal Duke basketball fans, don't be alarmed if you saw Mike Krzyzewski's name, I should say, in the news over the last 24, 48 hours. Seems like he's got some work on his hands now, Josh.
Yeah, some consulting, huh?
Yeah.
doing some consulting out there in LA, and one of Coach K's favorite dudes just happens to be one of my favorite dudes, but he just happens to be in the running for that job in LA. And I mean, who knows, man? Yeah. Who knows? I would you're a podcaster. Okay. I'm a podcaster. I want nothing but success for JJ Redick. He's, like I said, I love that dude. I loved his play in college. I love what he's doing after basketball. But man, I would hate to lose his podcasts that he's running. But hey, whatever he's got to do to maximize his career, I'm behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that are like, what are these guys talking about, but not directly saying and whatnot, the Lakers have a head coach opening. The Lakers have Mike Krzyzewski as a consultant for their search. And JJ Redick, the former Blue Devil, is a finalist for the job. So catching people up to speed.
JJ Redick, who just started a podcast called Mind the Game with LeBron James, where they literally talk strategy and they literally agree with each other like 99% of the time.
Might be a
kind of
fit.
makes a little
People
bit
are
of,
saying,
maybe might be a fit. So
that's great.
who knows?
Josh, it's great to see you as always. Be able to do this again sometime soon, okay?
JJ, have a great day, man.
All right, that's Josh Cox joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, and that's going to do it for all the fun here today. We're back at it tomorrow with more Duke basketball coverage right here on Locked On Blue Devils. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.